Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes your projects hassle-free. Forget something you need? Visit HomeDepot.com or the Home Depot app for free delivery on millions of products, including same-day and next-day options. Get delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability.
We have been told that we are the big boys in town.
Well, he's yapping. He's into it. I'm talking about he is like lit.
He's trying to start preaching.
Let everybody say amen.
I can get chills a little bit thinking about what these two guys can do.
Hey everybody, Falcons Audible presented by AT&T is back. I got the crew here, DJ Shockley, Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley, and we are going to bring it to you. We're going to give it to you after a win and after a loss, and not only a loss, but an ugly loss. Fellas. Falcons fall to the Carolina Panthers on the road, 32, unfortunately, 0 in that game. Gentlemen, I don't know about you guys the last 2 days, but I've fielded a ton of questions about, did you watch the Falcons game and what happened?
Oh my goodness.
Right? Like, I mean, it seems like that is the question that everybody's been asking. So guess what, DJ? I'm going to throw it back to you. Hey, DJ.
Come on, Shock. Figure it out.
What happened?
Bro, what's so crazy is I got like buddies, I got friends who are like diehard Falcon fans, and they text me, and it's like, the sky has fallen. I had a dude text me and say, Shop, tell me the truth. Pink slip tomorrow, right? I'm like, bro, come on. One guy asked me, hey,
Week 3.
week 3. Is Kirk starting next week? I'm like, bro, come on, like for real, like, yeah, it was a bad day at the office. It happens, and I don't know if fans hate to see it, hate to realize it. I know 30-0, that's probably the bottom of the barrel, and you don't expect your team to play like that, and just didn't look good from a lot of different facets. But it happens. You have bad days. You play badly. I think if you've ever played a sport, if you've ever done something you're really passionate about, you've had a day where things did not go your way. And that's exactly what happened with our Falcons on Sunday. Everything possible did not go our way, and we end up, losing the ball game. And we're going to go through it, but there are a lot of things that you can point at. There are a lot of situations in the game. There are a lot of things that you say, you know what, we could have done better at that. We could have, played a little bit better in this spot. But ultimately, in this day and age where you're in week 3, you get a chance to go do it again next week and prove yourself again. And you look at the week before. You play Sunday Night Football, you go beat a really good team on the road. You come back next week and you don't play your best football. Now you get a chance to play another really good team, and you get to play them at home, and you get a chance to kind of lick your wounds a little bit and get back to work. And that's the great thing about having this season is it's early enough where you can make some changes and you can try to right the ship.
Hey, Shock, guys, I'm still in fan mode here. Arch, but here's the problem. Like, how did it happen after they come off of the performance against Minnesota? Like, they played so good. How does that happen in the very next week? That's the follow-up question.
Yeah, it is. And his styles make fights, obviously, and certain things go your way in games that change the ebb and flow of the game, maybe change your game plan. Shock touched on a lot of it in the fact that, okay, do we have a problem? Yes. The thing that I think you immediately have to do, okay, what went wrong, and how do we go about fixing it? And I think that Atlanta's in the process of, the Falcons are in a process of trying to do that. They've made some adjustments, and we'll talk about those. But ultimately, you got a young quarterback that just played his 6th game. Okay, I think back to my career, my 6th game, I didn't know where I was coming or going, and to do all the things you have to do nowadays, the process, get plays called, process, get the line of scrimmage, change things. It's so situational now, Shock, at the line of scrimmage as far as what you do. So that part of the process needs to be helped out. And I think they've tried to address some of that. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the ebb and flow of a season, if you don't bring your best, you can get embarrassed. And I remember my first year as a starter here, we started 4-0, and we got shut out by the Eagles at home. And we were averaging 32 points a game on offense. Yep. And we lost 17-0. And you're thinking, I'm sure the fan went home going, what did I just see? The next week we came out and beat the Rams. And we're off and running again. So things can flow back and forth. You just got to make sure. See, nobody had seen Michael have a bad day.
Right.
I mean, he's had some
truly off.
Yeah, he's had some bad practices.
Yeah.
This just in, John Elway, Joe Montana. I mean, go down the line.
No way they had bad days.
Had bad days.
No.
You
How
know?
about Lamar Jackson last night?
Yeah.
Right? In the Monday night game, right? He didn't have a great game either. Got sacked 7 times. You know, he's an MVP caliber player. Now, granted, they scored points, but everybody has bad performances. Yeah. And fellas, here's kind of some of the conversations that I was having with some people recently is, you know, we all live in the Southeast, right? So we're privy to the SEC football on the college level. And here's the difference in the college level, in my opinion, right? Georgia can play Austin Peay, or Tennessee can play East Tennessee State, and they can play bad, and they'll still win because they're just better players. True. They just have supremely higher talent on their roster, okay? The NFL is completely different. That you play a team that's 0-2, guess what? They got some ball players on their team, okay? They have Pro Bowl caliber players. They have superstars. They have coaches that are very good play callers, understand schemes, understand how to attack previous week's game film. And if you don't bring your A game every week, it doesn't matter what the opponent record is because the guys on the other team are fighting for a job every single week too. They want to stay on the roster much like everybody player on the Atlanta Falcons roster does. They want to stay on the roster. So that's the difference, in my opinion, between the college game and the NFL game is if you don't bring your A game or if everything is off, you will get embarrassed. And it's happened I had to go back and look, fellas, and in my career, actually 3 times, 6 years with the Falcons, 2 with Seattle. I got shut out 3 times. And you guys know how those weeks are afterwards. Yeah. Shock, tell everybody that has not had the privy of being in a building the week after you get smoked. What is life like the next week at practice after a game like that?
I guess if the best analogy I can use is you come home and you've said something to your wife and you ultimately regret it, and you come home and you're walking on eggshells. That's kind of how it is walking in the building again. It's like, man, it can be some real changes. Some guys could really have their jobs in jeopardy. And the tough part about it is we would always have what a lot of teams have now, which is like a Tell the Truth Monday, or I remember we came in and it was team meeting first thing, and you put up all the things in front of your teammates. Everything that went wrong, or a guy not hustling, or a guy not doing his job, and you put it right there on Front Street so everybody knows exactly where you stand and what is the standard of what should be. And when you come off a game like that, there's nobody who can hold their head high and say, you know what, I did my job.
Right.
Because
you better not say that.
Because obviously you didn't do good enough a job to help the guy next to you, or you could have done more. And there's always that in every single ball game period. But when you get shut out like that, there is a newfound respect that you got to have for the job that you're doing. And I think you got to attack it a little bit differently because obviously you didn't bring your lunch pail that week, and you got to make sure that you do better the next week. So it's always one of those tougher weeks because everybody feels the wrath of what just happened, and quite frankly, you feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
And you have to find a way to get off the schneid, and nobody wants to feel that way. Everybody's got some pride about themselves, especially at this level. And like you mentioned, everybody's good, but you expect to still be very competitive. And if you don't score or you don't go out and play the way you're supposed to, you gotta bring a different mindset.
Yeah, these moments will test what you've built.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a pretty good feeling about what the chemistry and the culture, if you want to use that word, is about. This will test that. Okay, you usually find more out about yourself, and I don't care what walk of life you're in, when adversity strikes as opposed to when everything's going good, right?
Yeah.
So everything was going good last week, now it's not, and it's gone completely the other direction. How do you respond? And if you have the right culture and the right guys, which I think you do, I think that ultimately those guys are going to respond, and they're going to double down, as Shock was talking about, on their effort. It's a team game, but individually, what do I need to do to take it to another level? And it's not just the players, it's the coaches and everybody coming together, but taking their individual piece and saying, okay, we got to reapply here. We didn't get things done last week to our level of expertise. We need to redouble down on that kind of stuff. And I think that's the thing you hope for. That's the thing you hope you've built. So when you get embarrassed, and that was an embarrassing loss.
Yep.
You had 2 phases of the game that really didn't play anywhere near NFL caliber football.
Yep. Yep.
And your defense tried to hold onto the rope the best they could, but the bow broke.
I've said this many a times, and I'll say this again after a performance like this, is the last thing that I'm going to do, and I think us three are going to do up here, is make excuses.
Yeah.
Because you make excuses in the National Football League, and that's what gets you cut, and that's what gets you beat, right? The one thing I can say that I would say I appreciate is listening to Raheem Morris's press conference along with Michael Penix. And, yeah, they did ask him the questions about the headset and stuff, but both the head coach and the quarterback were not making any excuses about the headset. Right. They said that's not the reason why we lost the game. We got to be better. We've got to find a way to work through situations like that. Michael Penix, your young quarterback, took a lot of responsibility, owned up to it. Yeah, I missed some passes. I'm not going to make excuses as to why. I got to play better. I got to hit those passes. Your head coach saying that he's got to do things better. We had a good week of practice, but apparently it wasn't good enough. We're going to have to so to your point, generally practice this week is going to be ratcheted up a little bit more. And the smiles on the people's faces will not be present too much this week. Arch, you alluded to it. Couple of changes that have come down for the organization. Atlanta Falcons have decided to release wide receiver coach Ike Hilliard. So TJ Yates, who's been the wide receiver coach here previously back in 22 and 23, he will take over the wide receiver coach duties for the rest of the season. He was the passing game coordinator, as well as bringing Zach Robinson from the booth down from the field. Those two changes, what do you think that does for the players on the offense as far as the message sent and how the adjustments now on the sideline are going to happen differently versus when Robinson was upstairs?
Well, you just mentioned the first piece of it, message sent. We're not standing pat. That was unacceptable, what we just put out there as a product for our fan base, for us as a team. We're gonna do some things to rattle the cages a little bit. The receiver corps have not been what they were a year ago. Let's be honest. Those guys are not making enough plays. Is it because of routes run? Is it because of their spacing and distribution? Well, that's going to be addressed. That's going to be looked at. And so, unfortunately, Ike Hilliard is released, and so you move on from there. Zach Robinson coming down, from my perspective, puts him face-to-face with his young quarterback. It's one thing to get on the headset and talk to the guy upstairs and you go over a couple things, look at the pad and all this kind of stuff. But when he's sitting right next to you and he can look in your face and he can see some of the concerns, some of those kind of things, there's a human element attached to that, just like he is in practice. Zach Robinson's standing right next to him in practice. This is a guy that's played 6 football games in the National Football League. How much can I help him do his job? And remember, the headset cuts off at 15 seconds. I can't talk to him. If I'm on the sideline and he's not sure, now I don't have to relay it to one guy and then him relay it out to, or he can't even relay. He's trying to yell, pull his headset down to yell. Now I'm there and we can talk to one another. So it simplifies the operation. I think there'll be some other things that they'll do to help simplify for Michael what he's going to have to do on the field. And I'm sure the coaches are going through their process of, okay, how much more do I need to get the play in a little bit sooner? They're evaluating all the situations here. They know this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to their standard.
Yep.
So what can we do to help Michael be better? And some of it has to do with the guys playing around him better. A lot of it has to do with the guys playing around him better. And then how do I help with the process of getting plays in and out, getting people in and out, so I can simplify it so all he has to do is call it and get to the line of scrimmage so he can start to process what's happening at the line of scrimmage.
And to your point, Arch, Raheem Morris said that in his Monday press conference, is that everybody around Michael's got to play better. It wasn't just on Michael Penix. Yeah, he was 50%, but he said after they looked at the tape, everybody in this offense has got to play better around him. I want to get your opinion, Shock. Have you had an opportunity either in your college and or NFL playing career where you had a offensive play caller up in the box and one down on the sideline, and what your experience has been with either or both of them?
Yeah, I've had both in college and here with the Falcons, where you had a guy up in the booth, you had a guy down. For me, I thought having a guy who was on the field was big too. Obviously, like Arch mentioned, for everything he mentioned, that part of the communication, I think, is a little bit different because you can actually talk like straight to the guy's face and he could see some of the things that, like, sometimes we fail to realize the emotion of the game that's going on right in the midst of it. And sometimes you can talk to a guy upstairs and you can hear him talk and, you know, you can have a conversation and you say, all right, this is what we're going to do. And the guy says, okay. But if I'm sitting next to you and we're going through stuff and I can see you, maybe your eye goes a little here, or it goes, and you have a little bit of of trying to figure out what's going on, I can understand and notice that while I'm on the sideline. And I had coaches who could see that and notice that, and then they would say, "Did you not like that? Was that something that was you want to work on? You want to find something better?" And I think that's part of the equation is just the feel of it down on the field. There's something different than being down and being up. Now, a lot of teams have success with guys being up in the box, being up in the booth and made to talk to them. Because you have somebody down on the ground like a TJ Yates who, can be the intermediary between both of them. But I think this is just a situation where, like argument, you got a younger quarterback, you got an offensive coordinator who is going into his second year of calling plays, and you want to make sure that the entire communication from how you feel situationally, what's going on in the game, everything is how you want to be once you hit the ball game, how you hit the field. So I think it's a lot to him coming down. We'll see how it, actually transfers over if there's a change. But I'm glad they're looking for solutions to help the situation.
That's a great point, Chuck. They're looking for something to do. And people say, well, yeah, but Zach was upstairs last year when Michael played his 3 games. From a scenario standpoint, okay, here you're getting your young quarterback and he's getting to play at the end of the season. And so there was a different kind of flavor to that.
Yeah.
He now is your starting guy and you're trying to go make the playoffs. Not that you weren't trying to make the playoffs, but you're up against it a little bit late in the year last year where everything had to break for you to make that happen. This is a scenario where early in the year and you're trying to go win a division. You're going to try to – and so – how your quarterback's feeling about stuff. Shock makes a great point in that I can look at you, Rack, and I can see in your eyes what's going on. And I don't want to get weird with it or anything like that. But if we're on the pad and you're trying to talk to me from upstairs and you say, you see the linebacker here, I can actually point to stuff. I can visually, we can have a physical interaction here.
Yep.
Look right here. This is what I want you to look at. That little piece of communication, albeit you may think it's trivial, that's a big deal. And you got a certain amount of time between series to try to figure out what's going on so you can make that adjustment. Here's where your eyes should be. And you try to say that from upstairs, but I can physically show him. There's something to that. Obviously, the Falcons feel like there's something to it. That's why they made this move. Let's hope it works, because you do. The thing that I love what Shock said, they're not letting it just fester and say, okay, it'll be better next week. They're saying, no, let's address it. Let's help our quarterback the best we can.
One final comment I want to make on Carolina, and then we're going to move on, guys, is a lot of people, again, in the last 2 days have been asking me, well, how do we fix this, right? It's like you have a performance like this and everybody wants to know what's the fix, okay? Well, first of all, if we had the fix, we probably wouldn't be sitting here in front of microphones, right? Second of all, the fix in the NFL isn't always just right in front of you, right? It's not just, it's 2 or 3 different play calls or it's a catch here or there. Like a game like last weekend was a lot of things that did not go right. We didn't even get into special teams, and we had a kicker that went 5 for 5 the first week and 0 for 2 the second week, and the very first opportunity we had missed a field goal. Kind of brings the whole mood down a little bit, right? Didn't play good in the return game, okay? So it kind of goes back to the first week of the season. I'm going to go first here, and then I want to get your guys' opinion because I think it's 2 things that are not necessarily X's and O's on the football field. In a situation like this, I think it's number 1, it's accountability. Like you as a player and you as a coach got to be accountable for what you're doing. And you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. You can't be the player that's saying, well, I did my job. Well, did you do your job? Did you make your teammate next to you better? Did you get the tackle when you had an arm out there and he ended up breaking through the arm and you could have brought your legs better, right? A lot of different areas in accountability, which means you need to step your level of play up unless you want to get embarrassed like that again. Number 2 is leadership, and I think this comes both from the veterans on the team, and guess what? It can also come from your second-year quarterback that has been elected a captain. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be a guy that's in his 6th or 7th year. Right. Leadership comes in different forms, but accountability and leadership can work together if guys are saying, fellas, this is not good enough. This is not our standard, and we are not going to get embarrassed like this again. And so when you go out to the practice field, when you start challenging people, I'll never forget, Shock, Nakobe Dean, that one play on the field where he went and grabbed one of his teammates by the front of his jersey and got all up in his face mask. And I don't know what he said, but I'm sure there was some choice words that was something like, we don't do that here, right? Sometimes those statements is what really gets somebody like, oh, he ain't playing, right? And I'll never forget like hearing the stories about how Tom Brady would basically say, if you don't do this right, you will not be on the field with me. Right? If I can't count on you to do this or that or do it this way, you will not be on the field. When people step up like that, like to me, that's a different level of leadership. So to me, guys, accountability and leadership. Arch, maybe more big picture or what the fix is, but what do you think needs to happen this week so that type of performance doesn't happen again?
Well, I think it starts the first day they go out there and practice. They did a little bit on Monday. We're recording this on a Tuesday. This is the players' day off. I've already seen a ton of players here already. You guys talked about accountability. What can I do to make sure I step it up? And I think that sometimes it's not necessarily maybe grabbing a guy by the scruff of the neck. It's actually when I come in, I already see Michael doing this, or I already see Drake London doing that, or Bijan Robinson or Caden Ellis. And so when I get here, I see that they stepped things up a little bit, and there's a sense of urgency to go about our business a little bit different way. Double down. I said double down on what your effort can be, and that becomes the team concept of it. But the thing that you cannot do is, and I know the fans do this, and that's why they're fans, is you panic. Okay? You've got to understand that, okay, our work ethic is this. What didn't we do last week? Let's make sure we make the adjustments to that, both coach and player, and then we apply that. Because you start panicking, now all of a sudden it puts second guessing in your mind. You can't second guess how to read a route.
Right.
I understand Michael Penix drops the throw. This is how we're reading this route. I can't all of a sudden start second guessing that. But if I have a sense of urgency at receiver and I'm getting into my routes and I'm helping my quarterback from a spacing standpoint and I'm working my rear end off from a protection standpoint just to give him that little extra time, and I get that play in where he has a chance to process what's going on at the line of scrimmage, then everybody's working in concert with one another to take it to another level.
Shock, what comes to your mind in that like kind of big picture, like how does this team rebound from a performance like this so it doesn't happen again?
I think you guys have been spot on with what you talked about, especially both of you guys talking about the accountability part, about doing it and not being one of just talking about it, just showing by action. I think that's a big part. I think the other part, it goes, kind of on the line of what you guys have talked about, but I think each guy has to be honest with themselves about what happened in the ball game. And I think you go back, you watch the film, like you mentioned, there's spots where, you know what, hey, we've said it a million times. Is this the play that I could have did something better that could have affected maybe the outcome of a series? Maybe this was a situation where I could have played a little bit better, played a little bit harder, or, ran to the football a little bit harder. Well, whatever the situation may be, I think you have to be honest with yourself first. And then the second part about it is what I think they've already done. And I've seen tons of interviews. I've seen Arch talking to him after the game. A lot of the guys did a really good job of encouraging and being there for their other brother. Obviously, Michael Penix didn't have the day they wanted. And I heard every guy to a T talk about how they still believe in him, the calmness they have. They know what he's about. And I think you have to have some of that within your team to go to those guys and say, you know what, this wasn't the best week. But guess what? We still believe in you. And as a young guy, that would go a long way for me that – here's a guy that's played in the league 10 years, and he's coming to encourage me. I heard Bijan talking about it. I heard Caden Ellis talking about it. You got guys who are in those leadership roles, and they're going to pick their guys up. Because at the end of the day, it's hard to get away from the social media. It's hard to get away from what everybody's saying. Everybody's got family members that's calling them, asking them what happened. Oh, what about this guy? This guy played terrible. But I think the biggest thing and the best thing you could do is find a way to encourage your teammates. And then you do all the things like you guys talked about, taking it to the next step of doing the extra work, being accountable. All those things have to go hand in hand together if you want to turn this around. And like we mentioned, there's a lot of things you can go the other way with it too. And I don't think this is a team that will do that. This is not a staff. You don't have a head coach who will go the other way. And the first thing you guys mentioned, Raheem Moore's straightforward with it, told you exactly what it was and what they got to do, and they've already made the changes. Now we move on and we make those changes.
Confidence is a funny thing, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's a little word, or a word that you think confidence, and it's pretty easy to say. This game is played at light speed. Most throws come out inside 3 seconds. And so it's hard to translate that to the fan as to how quickly the game is played, how quick the guys are on the other side of the ball. And if I play with confidence, then I'm playing on time. Maybe I'm playing ahead of time.
Yep.
But if I play with a little bit less confidence or a lack of confidence, I'm late. And a count late will get you killed in this game. It'll be a pick six. It'll be a misstep and not get in the hole. It'll be a missed tackle that you talked about.
Yep.
Confidence is a funny thing, and if you can manifest confidence by the guys that are playing around you, picking guys up, whatever it is, and then doubling down on your own effort, but it can ebb and flow, and it ebbs and flows for younger players more than it does older players, because older players have the experience of playing through some of that adversity. If you're in your first year of starting, which essentially Michael Penix is, and some guys around him are young players as well, that confidence can go up and down the scale a little bit more. Even though he's a confident dude, he's a human being. So the more you can make him feel confident about what he's doing, the better you're going to play and the quicker you're going to play.
Shock, you mentioned move on, so let's go ahead and move on to the next team that's on the schedule. Falcons are going to face off at home, so after 2 weeks playing on the road, they'll be back here in Atlanta. And they're going to be playing the Washington Commanders, who ended up getting their second victory of the season this past weekend over the Las Vegas Raiders, 41-24, albeit shock with a quarterback not named Jaden Daniels last weekend. It was one that's somewhat familiar to the Atlanta Falcons organization, and Marcus Mariota. It was a very emotional win for him. He was interviewed after the game, and I think his journey and some of the stumbles that he's had to go through kind of hit him all at one time. But the Commanders played well last weekend against Vegas. So my question to you, Shock, is what is the animal? Obviously, it wasn't too long ago the Atlanta Falcons faced the Washington Commanders on the road Sunday Night Football last year at the end of the season. So they know this organization. Obviously, the head coach spent a lot of time here as well. What is the animal that the Falcons are facing, whether it is Jaden Daniels or it's Marcus Mariota?
Well, I think it starts with the head coach. Obviously, we know Dan Quinn really well. We know what kind of coach he is. We know what kind of man he is, and he's going to have his team fully prepared. They're going to be a well-coached team, and we've seen that. We saw that last year. And we know he's a tough dude. I mean, did we see Marcus Mariota run through Dan Quinn on the sideline?
Yeah, is he in concussion protocol right now? I mean,
hit the ground, everything.
Oh, my goodness.
Bleeding from his nose and everything. I mean, we saw all that. And but, you know, this is a team that was obviously deep in the playoffs last year. A lot of the same characters on that team. Now, obviously, the quarterback is another scenario in its own right. But like you mentioned, you got a guy in Marcus Mariota who has been through it. He went through it here. And I think anybody who is going through that kind of adversity and now you're on the other side of it, there's a newfound respect for the game. There's a newfound respect for how you play the game. And I think given this extra opportunity with a guy that he knows, he wants to take full advantage of it. And I think that permeates what we just talked about through his teammates around him. And everybody playing to that kind of standard is going to be one of those type of ball games. And Washington's a good football team, and we've seen that. We've seen it last year. We've seen it this year. Obviously, they got a three-headed monster running back with Chris Rodriguez, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Jeremy Nichols. I mean, three different style of guys. Mariota, 15 of 21 last week, 207 yards, didn't turn the football over. Obviously, they bring in Deebo Samuel, the physicality that he brings, the attitude that he brings to an offense, and the multiple ways they try to get him the football. Still got Scary Terry over there. Zach, this is Zach Ertz. This is an offense that has weapons. And similar to you look at us, similar thing. But the level that they're playing at is a little bit different from this week to what we've seen in the past. So this is a team in Washington that is the mindset for them is, hey, we're a team that was a couple of plays away from going to the Super Bowl. We feel good about where we are. So obviously the Bobby Wagner's on the other side, the experienced guys you got there too. I mean, they got a D-line that's – we've seen some really good defensive players. They got two or three of those guys on that D-line that you got to worry about. So this is going to be a tough task. This is going to be a game that, you got to make sure you bring your hard hedges. And if you worried about what happened last week, guess what? This team will make it feel even worse because they're just as good too. So coming to this ball game,
Arch, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the Commanders' offense or defense, but I was just going to kind of lead you to there's some dudes on this defensive side now. Bobby Wagner, as you mentioned, Frankie Louvu, By the way, Von Miller ended up in Washington. Marshawn Lattimore's there. I mean, they got some players that are Pro Bowlers, that are tackling machines, that are former Super Bowl MVPs. Like, they've got some legit talent on that side of the ball. So if there was a struggle with Michael Penix last week competing 50% of his passes, it's not going to get a whole lot easier in the next game.
No, it's not. And we know that week in and week out, if you don't bring your best, you're in trouble. This is a Washington team that's playing with a lot of confidence. You said Rashok. This is a team that a lot of people feel like is going to be in the mix to potentially end up in that last game of the year. Albeit their quarterback a little bit banged up. Don't know if Jaden Daniels will go, but Marcus Mariota filled in admirably. It's a defense that's been pushed around a little bit in the first 3 weeks, guys. There's teams that have moved the football on them. Obviously, it'll be paramount for us to get Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson going in the run game. That always helps a quarterback. Need to be able to run the football. The game kind of got a little bit out of whack in the second half of the Carolina game, and you had to kind of fight your way back in the game, maybe with the passing game, and got a little bit away from two of your best players. You need to keep the game in perspective there. To me, the game is going to hinge a lot on how Atlanta handles Washington's running game. Washington comes in the number 2 offense in the league running the football in the first 3 weeks of the season. And so I don't care who's playing quarterback. I just talked about the best friend of a quarterback is a running game. Can you limit the run game to where they only have to throw the ball 20 times in the game? You said Mariota was, 15 to 21? Or very similar. Remember, Michael Penix threw the ball, 23 times against Minnesota because you were running the football. Yep. So Atlanta's pretty good against the run. They've been, I think we're 10th in the league right now, and I know numbers are kind of skewed because we're early on in the year. This is a defense that's playing at a high level. You go back to the Carolina game, Atlanta gave up 61 yards on the opening drive that ultimately netted the touchdown run by Bryce Young. After that, in 28 minutes of football, they gave up 163 yards of offense. That's winning football. Yep. They're playing winning football on that side. That, to me, is the matchup that I'm looking at, is the Reds almost the Commander. The old school one still do it. I actually played a couple of seasons. So the Washington Commander run game versus the Falcon run defense to allow those young guys to get after the passer at some point. Control the quarterback in the pocket. We've still had problems with that, and we're going to see more and more players. Bryce Young got out for a touchdown run. We know Baker Mayfield hurt us a little bit. These guys, both these guys, want to get out and run with the ball, so you got to make sure you take care of that.
Listen, fellas, I don't know about you, but as a broadcaster that's been around for a while, I still call San Diego Chargers, Oakland Raiders. Every once in a while, I get tripped up on St. Louis Rams. When I came into the league, St. Louis Rams were in our division. That's right. Okay, you talked about Washington. These things happen on occasion. Okay, these names have all changed. Some people have been born that listen to this podcast. You never knew what it was before. No. You might have heard about it.
Yeah, it used to be the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, it even goes further back. But you're right, Arch. 201 yards rushing for the Commanders in their game last week. A lot of that aided because Marcus Mariota can do some similar things that Jaden Daniels can. He can get outside of the pocket. He ended up having 40 rushing yards in that game last weekend against the Raiders. Is this game, Shock, a lot more simple in the sense that this is more about Atlanta and not so much about what Washington is going to do? Is this one of those where it's short-term memory, got to learn from last week, they had a whole week of practice, put it behind them, and then as you talked about, play with the confidence and go let it loose against Washington and play freely and go out and make plays?
Rack, I'll say, usually about 89% I would say yes, it's all about this team. It's all about Atlanta. I would say it's more 60-40 Atlanta to Washington because you got to take care of yourself first, which is understandably so. You got some stuff that happened in this past ball game that you have to correct. We've been through that. But then there's also the opponent that you must go against that is really darn good. And we talked about some players on both sides of the ball that if you just come in and say, all right, we're not really worried about this guy. We got to make sure we do what we do. Oh, you're going to lose sight of exactly who you're playing and what it's about. So I think, you got to go in and you got to do the things that are the details of what makes you a really good football team, but it's also in the same light of, okay, I got to do it within the framework of stopping this opposing team and what they do really well. Like Arch mentioned, you can't come in here and say, you know what, we got some really good pass rushers, we're going to let them dudes go. Because if you get outside your rush lanes, they're going to make you hurt. It's going to be one of those kind of games. If you come in and say, you know what, we ran the ball really well versus Minnesota. We're just going to try to pound these guys, and then that may not happen with this front seven you got. You got linebackers, we know this league, that are downhill, that are run, that are physical. Maybe it's about some play action. Maybe it's about, using some things that's going to play with their eye. So I think it's part of, what you do, but then also you got to play to what they do as well to kind of help you move this ball game along.
The human piece of this, okay, I'm going to throw this out at you guys. How important is the juice in the building on Sunday when this fan base is a little upset, not a little upset, a lot upset with what they saw this last Sunday, and things start a little bit slow, and maybe, that really good crowd that can show up at Mercedes-Benz begins to start feeling uneasy about things. How important is the juice in the building this weekend?
I think it's huge. And Arch, as soon as you started talking about that, I said the first thing that came into my mind is the Falcons got to create the juice.
Yeah.
Like, you can't wait for it. Like, don't wait for the fans to be there and help bail you out of a tough situation. Like, go make them, give them a reason to get on their feet. Give them a reason to get loud. If you end up getting that opening kickoff, like, take that thing straight down the field, get into the red zone.
Catch it first.
Catch it first. Well done. Okay. Got a field to kick off well. All right. Go all the way down the field. Get into the red zone. Falcons didn't even get into the red zone last weekend against Carolina. And punch it in for a touchdown. And give them a reason to get excited about what they're going to see for, call it, the next 55 minutes in the game, right? You can't just sit there and sit back and say, we're home this week, and they're going to be ruckus, and it's going to be difficult. No, give them a reason to make it a difficult environment. Would you agree, Shock?
Absolutely. And I go back to, what was it, second, third play of the ball game to start the season, and we throw it out there to that right flat, and
blew the roof off.
Bijan goes crazy. And how crazy was that? I mean, that was like ooh, man. It's real nice in here. You got the flags flying, everybody's hyped. We got the music going, the Dirty Bird Nest is rocking. And it gives you a different energy. And guess what? That happened because of what you did on the field. So I think it's a great point that your play can bring that out. And, of course, you would love the fans to be there. But you got to be honest. I'm a fan of a lot of things, too. And sometimes things good have to happen for me to be really into it.
They want to go off. You just gotta, as you said, you got to give them a reason to go off. They want to go off, but you got to give them a reason to. Good call.
And we also got to give them a reason in the fourth quarter to get that swag surf on. Because I can tell you, if they ain't playing well, they don't do it. But if they playing well, that gets ATL back in the house.
Yeah,
okay?
For sure. No doubt.
All right, that's going to do it here for the Falcons.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
We got to give some flowers to this guy right here, his group. That's why he's one of the best in the league. My dude right here earned himself a Gabby. You know what I'm saying? Him, West Doom, Bo Morgan. Congratulations. Well-deserved, my brother, on the Gabby. Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Archman's doing this thing for a long time, and he's one of the best in the league. And if you're watching the game, you should turn that off and listen to these guys. You're going to learn so much during the game. So well-deserved, Arch. Had to give you flowers before we get out of here.
Hey, listen, I'm in the car last weekend after the Nebraska game, and my producer on the radio was saying, is Dave Archer and Wes Durham still there for Atlanta? I said, yeah, they're still there, man. They've been there for how many years now, Arch?
22 seasons.
22 seasons doing the darn thing.
No doubt.
Okay?
No doubt.
There ain't a whole lot of carryover from when you and I played in the early to mid-2000s, but he was doing it at that time.
Yeah, the problem is I called all you guys' games too. That's the problem. Thank you, Shock, for that. And obviously there's a lot of people that contribute to making that happen. But Wes Durham is the best play-by-play guy, bar none. And I'm going to just say I've worked with a number of guys. I know you've worked with a number of guys as well. Rack, you have too, Shock. The guy's energy and what he brings to the table. He's the voice of the Falcons. I just get a chance to piggyback with him. So I appreciate it, man.
Congratulations, Arch, and to all of you on your crew. So as I mentioned, that's going to do it here for the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. This is your midweek Falcons podcast, by the way. And don't forget, on Mondays, we've got the final whistle. So you can start your week with a podcast. You got your midweek here with us. And then, of course, we've got the Friday 5 on what day of the week? That happens on Fridays, right?
Yeah.
Monday.
Don't forget the pregame show.
Pregame show
Rack and
coming on Sundays.
Yep. Got you covered, right?
All the content.
Yeah.
All right? So you got Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. It's just coming at you. Okay? That's going to wrap it up for the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. That's Shock. That's Arch. I'm Rack. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week to recap the Washington Commanders game.
You okay with Bama this week, brother?
Feel good, baby.